Hi, welcome to another episode of Look Ma No Hands. My name is Linda, and this is a little podcast where I talk about my hobbies and a little bit about how I've adapted different life skills to work for me and my disability. So I'm going to jump right in and talk about what I'm wearing. This week I'm wearing a poncho that I kind of designed myself. I used 4 granny squares to make kind of, I guess you could say, like the top part, the collar part of the poncho, and then just did double crochet down the front and back to make 2 very long panels. And when those were finished, I seamed them together to make the collar, and then did double crochet on either side of the poncho to kind of extend out the shoulder area, or for lack of a better way to say, the sleeves. It's not really sleeves because, like I said, it's a poncho. I'm going to go ahead and stand up so you can get a better look at what it looks like. I kind of took inspiration from a fashion or a style from the 90s, and I think maybe even the 70s. I know in the 90s when I was a teenager, the style was called the Baja shirt. It was like a hooded wool sweatshirt type shirt that was super popular. And when me and my sister and my cousin were all super excited about that style of shirt, my mom said, I'm pretty sure that's a 70s style. I think I remember that from when I was a teenager. And my grandma used to say, well, they always say that about every 20 years, fashions kind of rotate through and come back in style. And I don't think she's wrong about that, because things that I saw when I was a teenager are now popular with my son, who is kind of exiting his teen years, but like his peers and things like that, kids that were just a little bit younger than he is, are bringing back styles that I'm like, darn, if I had just saved all my clothes from high school, I could sell them as vintage pieces. But, you know, hindsight being 2020. So yeah, this is just a little poncho that I came up with. It was, you know, just my own making. I didn't find a pattern anywhere. I just kind of came up with it on my own, knowing how to make a granny square, and then just kind of went from there. The yarn, again, was just something that I had in stash. I believe this yarn, though, was something that I had purchased like quite a while ago, maybe like 10 years ago. I got it at a thrift store, and it was at that time what I considered kind of like the fancy yarn, because it was in hanks, and the fiber content is like a cotton silk blend. So I thought that was kind of like interesting and a little bit more high-end than your typical acrylic. I believe it was by Plymouth Yarn. I know for sure that it was discontinued, because when I tried to look it up to see if I could get more, there was none. So, but I just really liked the rainbow coloring of it, and I got lucky that the sequence of color change, I was able to kind of sort of make matching squares by just how the colors landed. I made 4 squares and then just kind of put the 2 on the front that looked most similar, and then the 2 on the back that looked most similar, and was able to reattach the yarn for the double crochet sections to make it look somewhat uniform and get something that didn't look too crazy. But I really do like the rainbow coloring and how the striping kind of turned out almost perfect. Almost looked like it was planned that way. I mean, I guess it kind of was, but yeah. And then I just made a little drawstring tie for the neckline to kind of keep it tied together. I didn't want to put like a zipper or buttons or anything like that. I felt like the lace worked really nicely, It kind of keeps it loose enough that I can just throw it over my head, but snug enough that it's not going to droop down off of my very narrow shoulders. So yeah, that's what I'm wearing. I guess we can dive right into what I'm stitching this week. I powered through and worked on the hooded baby afghan that I had started last week. The project took a little bit of a divergent path this week. I made a rookie mistake, did not check gauge, figured it's just a blanket, it doesn't need to fit any particular way. But in doing that, I got to the end of the second full skein that I was using and realized that the blanket was not coming out square like it's supposed to. And that had to do with me working from what the dimensions were as stated in the pattern, which should work out to be 28 by 28. Well, not checking to see if I had a 28-inch start, I actually started out with 34 inches. So when I got to 28 inches worth of length on the rows, obviously that turned out to not be square. So I had to figure out a plan for how I was going to fix that mistake. And I talked with my husband. I said, here's my dilemma. Should I dismantle the section that is giving me a problem and rework the plan from there? Of course, he said that's just craziness, because that means how many hours or days worth of work are you going to be taking apart? And I said, not that many, it's only like 3 days. And he says, that's half the week. Why would you take out half a week's worth of work? Figure out a plan of how to move forward from where you are. So I took his words of wisdom and just reworked my color sequence plan and picked up the more vibrant colors of my original start and did a section in the same color repeat, but just smaller, so that it kind of is proportionate and still looks like it was planned that way, even though it was my oopsie. And then I added in a fourth color to my orange cream yellow color combination, and I'm using, oh, let's see, what color is this? I've got it right here next to me. Limelight, and did the border and the edging with Limelight, so it still has that kind of citrusy vibe going, but obviously Limelight is green and not peach or yellow, but it kind of goes with the theme, so I just went with it, and it's turning out pretty nice. So I will definitely add in the clip of me finishing off the last couple of stitches around the edge of the blanket to finish the border, and it will be done. I even managed to use all of the light yellow skein of yarn in the hood. Most of the peach color, I played yarn chicken and I won. This is all I have left of the peach yarn. Yay me. And then obviously, since I'm not using quite as much of the brighter yellow, the brighter orange, and the Limelight, I have quite a bit left of that, with a plan already for how to use that in another project. So it's exciting to be chipping away at the stash and making progress to being stash 0. Maybe by the end of the year I'll be stash 0, and then I can start rebuilding as I see sales coming up. So that's cool. And even kind of rebuilding the stash with stuff that excites me and yeah, makes me happy. So that's that's that. Okay, so here I am working on the last of the stitches necessary to finish the hooded baby afghan. It's a pattern that I'm super familiar with, as I said last week. I love this pattern. It's so much fun and really quite simple. It's a great beginner pattern. Two more edges to finish on this, and then I will be done. I'm so excited. There is no intended recipient for this particular blanket, so it will probably just go in the suitcase where I have a bunch of other finished projects in hopes that I might be able to sell them at craft fairs when craft fair season gets back into swing. There have been some years when I've been reasonably successful in selling at craft fairs, and some years where I've been highly disappointed. That stitch did not want to go. I will once again put a link in the description of where you can find the pattern and the video that I have found where you can find the tutorial that I don't know if it's necessarily associated with Lion Brand, but it's a tutorial that I found that is pretty similar to the pattern, if not the exact same. Does anybody else find little hairs on their yarn as they're stitching that just drives them crazy? I'm constantly picking my hair off of my projects. I don't have any pets, but my own hair is definitely all over the house. No matter how much I sweep, vacuum, dust, my hair is everywhere. Oops. I'm trying to rush through this because I'm so excited to be almost finished. have a mini fridge in my, what I call art studio, and it's rather old and clunky. It serves its purpose, but when it turns on, I can hear it, and it drives me crazy. It is a rather gloomy day today. Thankfully, I have a ring light that I can turn on to compensate for the poor lighting coming from the window. I don't too much mind the gray, gloomy days. The gray and gloomy makes me appreciate the bright, sunny days that much more when they come along. And it is February after all, probably one of the gloomiest months of the year. I definitely do long for spring just because it means more outdoor time. But there are times when I can get out even in the cold, as long as it's not bitterly cold or super windy. I try to get out once a week or so and enjoy some fresh air. The more days I can get out there, the better. That was an Instagram notification that just beeped off. I'm coming to the corner. I marked the corner with a stitch marker because I hate having to find the corner stitch when I get there. So I figured the best way to not have to hunt for it when I get to the corner is to mark that corner stitch. Then I can just keep going without having to think too hard or pay too much attention because the stitch is marked. Now I gotta do the big turnaround. Of the blanket that is pretty close to being done. And now I have to figure out the placement for the rest of my stitches because it's not a true stitch. It's the chains along the end of a row. So hopefully I can get them evenly spaced and be satisfied with where I put them. remove that stitch marker. Okay, let's see. I really want to keep going until I get to the end of the round. I am very close to the end of the round. When I was changing colors as I was going along, I managed to get all of the color changes to happen on the same end by doing them on an even numbered row. So all of my weaving was to be done on the same side. And I kind of weaved in the ends along the edge so that as I came back with the border, I would also cinch them into the stitches of the border in hopes that my ends will stay nice and woven in. So if it looks like there's little pokey outies, I'm hoping that as I'm coming along now, they'll get hidden in these stitches. Just a few more stitches to go. The most difficult stitch, the slip stitch to join. Now to unbury my scissors. The end. That is so satisfying. Okay, what have I been reading this week? This week I finished up Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. It did pick up a little bit as the story progressed, but I do kind of feel like this third book is kind of losing steam a little bit compared to the first and second books. Maybe it's just me. I was having a bit of a hard time following the characters, remembering who was who and who did what, remembering who died in the previous two books and who they were related to, and how some of the characters that continued in Onyx Storm were related to each other. I was just, I don't know, maybe my focus was split and I wasn't able to follow, but I had a bit of a hard time keeping up. It ended in a cliffhanger, which means there's probably another book coming out. Knowing that, I'm probably going to go back and reread the first two, just so that maybe I can be more satisfied with whatever is coming next. But we'll see how it goes. And then I finished that about midweek, so I picked up another book that I had on my list that I had to really get to and hurry up and finish because it's in hot demand right now. A lot of other people were waiting for it. I do most of my reading from books that I check out of the library, and this is one of them. It's called Be Useful by Arnold Schwarzenegger. I believe it was published in 2023, and it's mostly a book that he wrote about just how to be a good leader, and there's like 7 elements that he believes help to drive leadership and what makes a good leader. A lot of what he was saying in the book resonated with me. I really felt like he was talking personally to me. A lot of what he was saying was stuff that I agree with, things that I've said personally in my own life in terms of how to make a difference. Of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger is a highly successful actor, successful politician, government leader, but he emphasized that you have to think big, but also don't think so big that small actions seem insignificant or don't matter, because the way to be able to make big impact is to start small. Do things within your community that you know are needed, whether that be going into schools and reading with school children, whether it be volunteering at like an animal shelter, like whatever your passion is, get in there and do it. And I just felt like that was really something that I was raised to believe, between like my family, my parents, teachers and mentors in my life. I definitely felt like that book really spoke to my soul. So if you're looking for a book that can kind of inspire you to go out and seek your own success, I think this book really could motivate you and kind of give you a little bit of a foundation maybe to make that plan and get started on those things that you think of as like, oh, one day I hope to, or I really wish I could. And instead of just wishing about it or hoping for it, making a plan for how those wishes and hopes are going to become reality. So yeah, that was what I read this week. So next week, I'll continue chipping away at my list of books that I created for myself when I didn't know what else to read. And then I went hog wild and checked out like a dozen books. A couple of them, unfortunately, again, are in hot demand. So my time with them has expired and I'm getting put back on the wait list. But there were others that did not expire, and I will definitely be going into those because they sounded really interesting, and they're definitely like all over the map. There's a few other like self-help books and some like really like fluff type romance novels and some mysteries and sci-fi. So like I said, all over the map. You can never know what to expect with what I'm reading, but there's definitely going to be interesting things on there, and maybe you'll find something that you enjoy. Okay, for what I'm watching this week, it's been a lot of the same from previous weeks, continuing with When Calls the Heart, which is a lot of fun for me to watch. The Way Home, which is getting very exciting, and lots of like drama and just great fun with that one. Continuing watching reruns of The Golden Girls, working my way through that series from start to finish. Watching Shifting Gears and seeing how the characters are evolving in that show, and I really enjoyed the little bit of interaction between Tim Allen's character as the grandpa with the teenage boy, and seeing how the boy kind of feels a little bit of disconnect from his father and is looking up to his grandpa quite a bit, and the grandpa then turning to the dad and saying, you really got to step up, like he's your son, I can be grandpa, but you have to be dad. So that was interesting to see how that was handled. We've been watching Will Trent, and that's always exciting. I love watching that show and kind of trying to solve the puzzle of whatever the crime and the mystery is during that show. That was fun, just watching like the excitement of, will they catch the bad guy? So that was good. Extreme Makeover this week was really interesting. I really enjoyed the fact that they didn't do a complete build of a home, and just showed how they could do like a renovation to make the home that already existed, the house that already existed, more efficient. They did renovate the kitchen, like full gut of the kitchen, and fix that up for the family so that they could be more efficient as a family. And then really emphasized the idea that overloading your home with stuff can often be the source of a lot of anxiety and if you downsize on how much stuff you have and find methods to organize what you own, then you can save a lot of money and just not feel so much stress because things are out of control, like physically, like there's just too much stuff everywhere. And also how to attach true value to the things that you keep from your past. The mom in this episode felt that she was like the keeper of all the family history, and so she was keeping things just because they belonged to her grandparents or they belonged to her aunt and uncle, and then finding out that the things that she was keeping, the meaning behind them had kind of gotten lost, like nobody knew the origin of them. And so she was keeping things that truly had no meaning and had no reason to be kept. So she learned how to sort through the things that she was keeping and only keeping the things that really had value, and then how to display those things and keep those things in a way that honored the past. And I really liked that they didn't just completely like gut the whole house or knock that house down and build another one. It really showed like the reality of, we could go, like as everyday people, we could go into our own homes and implement some of the concepts that Extreme Makeover does for these families that are featured in the program. So that was interesting. And then of course my daily watch of General Hospital. I love watching that show. I don't like drama in my own life, but I love drama on the screen, whether it be the TV screen or the movie screen or in the pages of my books. That's the best place for me to find drama. So drama-free life, but drama-filled entertainment. And then this week we also started watching the true crime show called Scamamanda, about a woman who faked cancer. I didn't realize it was going to be a series, so I watched the first episode because I wanted to see like how and why someone would do that, and then discovered that this is going to be like a limited series. So now I'm kind of invested. I have to watch the whole thing to find out what happened in the end, like how was she able to run this scam? Why did she run it? And what were the consequences for doing that? So those are the questions I have, and hopefully they'll be answered as the weeks go on. And then I also started watching The Perfect Wife, which is another true crime show about the woman Sherry Papini, who faked her own kidnapping. Again, I thought this was going to be a one-off, like, true crime special. Turns out it also is a mini series, but that's another one that I wanted to watch to see, like, is there an explanation for why she did it, or even like how she did it? I mean, they talked a little bit about it through the news, and there's been a few like programs on it where they just kind of glanced over how it happened, but I kind of want to know the nitty-gritty details, because it's so outlandish that as a person that could never do something like that, I want to know the psychology of like what happens in a person's mind that makes them do something so outrageous, something so just unbelievable. What was her end goal? Like, what did she hope to achieve by doing that? So hopefully that is something that will be answered. I like the psychology of things. I like to think that there must have been something in her that made her think that that was necessary. I can't, as a person who is like kind and thoughtful, believe that there isn't some underlying reason, that like she's not just pure evil, like wicked, just thoughtless to do that. Just so many people that she hurt by doing that. So I want to know like the why of when people do things that are so hurtful, because I just can't imagine doing something like that. So yeah, like I said, drama in my entertainment, but peace in my life is how I like to live things. So yeah, that's what I was watching this week. Come back next week for details on what I'm doing for the future. Okay, fancy footwork this week. I'm going to demonstrate how I weave in the end of the yarn on a project, since I have this project that I just finished. I know it's kind of like crochet adjacent, so it might seem like, why didn't I just include that in the crochet portion? But I think it's important for me to talk a little bit about some tools that I use, or a tool that I use to do the weaving in process. I have not been able to master threading the needle, even though I use a needle that has a really wide eye to it. I just cannot get the yarn to go into that opening. So I use a needle threader. It's a product by DMC Threads, and it used to have a little wire on the top of it, but now, since that wire broke off, it just has the two little like hook things. And what I do is I put one of the hooks, it doesn't really matter which one is a little bit wider than the other, through the eye of the needle, and then I take whatever yarn I'm going to be using and hook the needle threader onto it, and then pull it through the needle. And I can set that down out of the way, and then I can go ahead and weave in the yarn. I'm going to go ahead and give a little bit of a tug to it to make sure it's all the way through, to make sure that it's tight. And what I'm going to do this time, I think, is feed it through to the underside of the hood so that I can kind of hide how I'm weaving it so that it's not really noticeable. And then I have a few ends that I need to weave in. I'm going to turn the hood inside out and finish weaving the ends in. So now I'm going to turn the hood kind of backwards. I left myself a nice long tail so I can go back and forth a couple of times. Oh boy, more notifications coming through. Sorry about the notifications. It's probably a little distracting. And if it's not distracting you, well, the secret's out. It's distracting me. So yeah, this is how I weave in the ends when it's like the final end. If I know there's going to be like a step where I can hide my weaving of ends, I go ahead and weave as I go, like when I'm doing a granny square and I'm changing colors a lot, I will weave in the ends a different way, just because I found a new method that makes it so that I can hide those ends a little bit easier, and then maybe even make them more secure by stitching over them in the subsequent rounds. This is the third pass to get this woven in. Just want to make sure it is nice and secure. And then I will snip it off and call her done. So that one is done and dusted. Thank you so much for stopping by again this week for another episode of Look Ma No Hands. I hope you found something in here that you enjoyed. Next week will be more of the same. I will definitely be trying to keep up with once a week video posts. Typically the posts will be coming out on Saturday at 7 p.m. Central Time. If anything comes up that will change, I will definitely put a post here on YouTube to let you guys know what to anticipate. I'm hoping to maybe start doing like a midweek brief of different things, but we'll see how that goes. I have a couple of ideas of what to do. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you've watched more than one episode, it would be great if you would subscribe, if you like what you see, to go ahead and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notifications so that you're aware when new videos come out, or if I make a post about updates and future things that are going to be happening. So thanks for stopping by, and I'll be back again next week. Bye.